Glad to be here. Actually, the panel that we had was canceled, unfortunately, because some people couldn't get from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. So we're kind of the replacements, but we appreciate your time. I'm Jayson Browder. I'm the head of public policy for Marathon Digital Holdings. We're the largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining company in North America. We're over a $5 billion market cap. We are the, I believe, the second largest publicly traded company holder of Bitcoin, around 17,000 Bitcoin on our balance sheets. We have around $1 billion in cash and cash equivalents. We also operate on 3 continents, including the UAE, Paraguay, and North America. We have 11 operations. My role at Marathon is focused on federal legislation. So I work very closely with U.S. politicians, both in the House and the Senate, and then supporting our growth efforts abroad. We're one of the few largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies that are focused on international growth, particularly in the Gulf and GCC, and expansion efforts in Africa. We were mostly focused on scale, which was as our CEO Fred Thiel likes to say, our asset light model that allowed us to expand to be the largest Bitcoin mining company in North America. And now we have matured and are moving into a asset heavy model with our recent acquisitions in Texas and Nebraska. And we really think of Bitcoin mining really in 2 separate parts. If you understand Bitcoin mining, a lot of the large publicly traded companies are focused on what you would call utility scale mining. So that is, 100, 150, 200, 250 megawatt facilities. That's part of our joint venture, where you're really thinking of excess power and then grid stability. And then, as our CEO likes to say, energy harvesting. So how do you lower the cost of energy to either 0 or negative by solving energy challenges? And the Bitcoin that's produced is basically free. So think of landfill mining, think of flared gas, think of waste to gas projects. That's everything from bourbon stillage, running that stillage that's produced from Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, etc., into anaerobic digesters, taking the methane that's produced and then mining Bitcoin, where effectively the Bitcoin, as I mentioned, is free. And so very excited to announce Manoj, who has just come on. His announcement was on Monday as the new managing director for EMEA, who will be based in the Emirates, focused on our growth portfolio overseas. And I'll let you introduce yourself and share more about our partnership here in the region.
Thank you very much, Jayson. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a background as to why this is probably the right time for us to be focusing on Bitcoin mining or energy. There's a very interesting focus that's happening on everyone's national development agenda in the entire region, whereby it's not only GDP growth, but it's the ability to provide power and infrastructure. And Marathon Digital Holdings is morphing itself into a energy solutions company that is using Bitcoin mining as one of the processes to ensure grid stability, to ensure that flaring or capturing stranded renewable power, and effectively making sure that there is a net positive contribution to the economies that we are currently functioning in. Very unique time. We have a joint venture in Abu Dhabi with ADQ. We're producing 250 megawatts of capacity, and we're hoping to expand that. So everyone sort of tries to understand as to why would a Bitcoin miner walk down a different path or extend its path. And what is very interesting is that energy security is key to growth. So what everyone needs to be focusing on, any country, any region that wants to accelerate its national development agenda, needs to have a very clear focus on how do they improve their power generation and at the same time be part of the growing infrastructure drive. And you can see the amount of projects that are being launched in the region, that there's a significant amount of requirements. At the same time, the power generation grid capacity is not growing fast enough. So we are solution driven, and I'm very excited to be part of the Marathon team. I come from a energy background and have spent the formative parts of my career in upstream, midstream, and downstream in the natural resource sector.
So yeah, that was going to be my first question, which is, the industry is finally maturing. Not only do we have large publicly traded companies that are listed on U.S. exchanges, but we now have Bitcoin miners that are partnering with the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. You have ADQ, which is, I think, one of the 5th largest. And I think it's, you mentioned when your announcement went out and your colleagues from the traditional oil and gas, whether it's Exxon and Shell and these large, $100 billion market cap companies, were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you coming to a Bitcoin mining company? Is it a bunch of degen bros that talk about shitcoins and, number go up? So I'd love for you to dive into your traditional background and why you think Bitcoin mining is the future of energy.
Thank you, Jayson. So I have a simple view of the entire world, which is we're currently running at a population about 7.5 to 8 billion people. You have 6 basic human needs: energy, food, water, infrastructure, education, and healthcare. I leave alcohol and sex to the side. These are the 6 which I'm willing to put my money into. And what's interesting is that energy is the number one cornerstone that allows each of the other human needs to be addressed. And what is interesting is that when we looked at, we're currently consuming or producing 100 million barrels of oil a day. We consume about 97, 98 million barrels of oil a day. 40% is consumed by the US. India in its current capacity is only consuming 20% of that. So if I look at it from a pure statistics point of view, if the Indian population starts to consume oil in the same ratio that's being consumed by the American population or the North American population, we're going to need about 150 million barrels a day in the next 15 to 20 years. Now, with that comes a huge need for power, a massive need for power. And everyone's talking about lithium, copper, and just look at copper futures. Copper futures have gone through the roof. It's very much part of anyone's battery infrastructure, power storage infrastructure. And then at the same time, it's all power. And there's a significant amount of stranded renewable power in certain parts of the world. Any place that has a significant nuclear power supply base. And what is happening is everyone's growing their national agenda to attract industry. Everyone knows that the largest cost for industry is, again, power. So when I sit here and sort of look at it, the commodity that we are trading, that everyone has their basic business understanding on is Bitcoin. So blockchain is a key element to the entire ecosystem. However, if you take it a step further, how do you mine Bitcoin and making it effectively a byproduct of the energy solution and showing how you can stabilize the actual grid and provide a lower cost of power as opposed to taking from the actual grid at a peak time. So it's a very fascinating time. And everyone is looking at, there's two things which are driving that growth: AI, data centers. So it's a very unique time because the growth of AI and the growth of data centers, data is the new oil. Everyone's going to there's a significant amount of power need. And what we have at Marathon is twofold. Apart from being one of the world's largest Bitcoin miners, we have a technology solution that effectively uses less power to cool our mines. And that technology is now being developed to be able to cool data centers. So think about it from a point of view of providing an end-to-end solution, which not many people have thought about it. And as my colleague just said, we're not crypto bros. We come from I always joke and say, I come from the no hair / gray hair world. It's about gravitas. We look at cash flows. We look at not only our internal rate of return, but our external rate of return. How are we impacting the community? How much power are we providing? How are we actually loosening or softening the impact on the existing power grid? And that's because we can manage it extremely well. So there's a huge narrative. I'm a huge energy fan, and I'm actually very grateful to be here today. So thank you.
So my next question would be like, why do governments care, right? Why would the UAE, which is such a forward-leaning government, very focused on technology, very focused on innovation, they clearly want to be the leader, not just in this region, but in the world. Like, why would the UAE say, we want to do, obviously we're going to tout they did a joint venture with Marathon, but why would they want to make a stamp on Bitcoin mining to help them solve their energy challenges? Why would Paraguay, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to the US Senate in Paraguay, that's like, maybe we should make Brazil pay as much money for their energy as we do Bitcoin mining companies. And maybe we should get more Bitcoin mining companies in Paraguay. I don't know if you've seen, but Manoj and I are going to be taking a trip to Africa. We're going to Tanzania. We're going to Kenya. We're having conversations at the highest levels of government in these countries. Tons of power generation. I mean, the IMF, the World Bank, USAID has encouraged these countries to generate tons and tons of power. They don't have enough population yet to soak up that power or the electrical grid. Why are these countries inviting Bitcoin miners in to be partners for their energy solutions?
Thank you, Jayson. What is extremely clear is, as I said earlier, energy is the first basic human need that needs to be addressed. And what we're seeing very clearly is if any country that's not able to address its energy supply in a manner that provides the efficiency on a scale, at scale, is not able to attract industry. You're not able to attract AI, you're not able to attract data centers. I'm sure you've all seen yesterday, Microsoft announced a $1.5 billion investment into G42. Why did they do that? It's because there is significant power. We are, and I say this, Marathon Digital Holdings is part of the power solution, because we take very complex requirements, simplify it, but at the same time we customize the solution, and everyone's solution is very different. So governments are very keen. Power is the number one priority. Power and infrastructure are on everyone's national agenda, and once they fix that, the positive effect it has on the grand economy at scale takes it to another level.
And I think just to end, everyone's focused on the halving. What is that going to do to Bitcoin miners? What's it going to do to the revenues that we produce. As I mentioned, most miners have focused on large utility scale mining. That's not going away. We're going to continue to partner with governments around the world to provide these energy solutions at scale, 100, 200, 250 megawatt projects, whether that's hydro, nuclear, natural gas. I think what's very interesting in the strategy that we've taken, which most people have not caught on yet, which is these smaller scale projects, 10 to 25 megawatt projects, where companies pay us money, because these are usually B2B relationships that we're doing. So think of, without the BIHA group, for instance, that we had a conversation with, think about all the landfills in the world. Think about COP28 was just here in the UAE. They had a pledge 2030. They need to reduce all this methane. It's 70 to 80% worse than carbon dioxide. No real way to get rid of this methane. A lot of it is stranded, meaning there's no infrastructure to take that methane to the energy source, which is Bitcoin mining technology is modular. We can put this right next to a landfill, mine on site, capture that methane. Think of all the flared gas in the GCC. We can capture that gas, capture that methane out of the air, and mine Bitcoin with it. Our energy to waste projects, I mentioned the stillage. Can you talk about Marathon, our heat reuse projects, and how that's really the future of Bitcoin mining? Imagine all of these 5 to 10 megawatt Bitcoin mines all over the world, completely decentralized, where every Bitcoin we produce is basically free.
Thank you, Jayson. You've covered very clearly what's the usage here, and I can tell you that the use case is real. There is, as we are shifting from a asset light to a asset heavy model, there will be a lot of commercial roadkill from a few of the miners over the next 30 to 60 days that we will be seeing post the Bitcoin halving. Again, it's a function of how we run our business. The financial prudence that we apply is very clear, and at the same time, what we're seeing is that Bitcoin mining is now part of the positive energy narrative. And our job at Marathon is to amplify that narrative, and we're very grateful that the UAE allows us not only to partner with them, but they're part of that narrative amplification. So without further ado, thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone.